Let me describe a situation to you and see if this feels familiar. You're doing reasonably well. Not rich, not struggling, just functioning. Your bills are paid. Your income is steady. You're responsible. And yet, despite years of effort, it still feels like you're running in place. Every raise disappears. Every win feels temporary. Every plan depends on nothing going wrong. You're not reckless. You're not lazy. You're not bad with money. But the gap between effort and security never quite closes. Now here's the unsettling part. This isn't a modern problem, and it isn't unique to you. More than 2,000 years ago, Chinese philosophers were already describing this exact trap, and they arrived at a rule so simple it sounds almost insulting at first. A rule that quietly explains why some people slowly build wealth and stability, while others spend their lives earning, striving, and still feeling financially fragile. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. My name is Chris. I spent a lot of time studying money through psychology, history, and systems. Not motivational slogans, not hustle culture, and not personal blame. This isn't about how much you earn. It's about why the structure of modern life makes stability feel permanently out of reach, and how an ancient idea quietly solves that problem. Let's start with the belief most of us are taught. If you want security, you increase income. If things feel tight, you work harder, move up, or earn more. That belief feels obvious, logical, almost undeniable. And for a long time, it worked. Higher income used to mean margin. It meant room to recover from mistakes. It meant time wasn't always under pressure. But today, something feels off. You are more than previous generations did at your age, adjusted for inflation, and yet the sense of safety is missing. So what changed? To answer that, we need to look at an idea from ancient China that most modern financial thinking completely ignores. The idea is sometimes translated as leaving slack. In classical Chinese philosophy, especially in texts associated with thinkers like Confucius, there's a recurring principle that shows up in governance, farming, ethics, and personal conduct. Never operate at maximum capacity. Not your land, not your labor, not your resources, not your life. Because systems that run at full capacity break. The Chinese observe something simple. When a farmer plants every seed, he has no seed for next year. When a ruler taxes too heavily, rebellion follows. When a person exhausts all their strength, collapse is inevitable. So they developed a rule that guided everything from agriculture to statecraft. Always leave margin. This wasn't about laziness. It was about survival. Fast forward to modern life, and this rule has been quietly reversed. We are encouraged, sometimes forced, to live at maximum capacity. Your income is optimized. Your time is optimized. Your housing is optimized. Your schedule is optimized. Nothing is left idle. And that's the problem. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. Imagine two people. Person A earns a high income. Their housing costs stretch to the edge of affordability. Their schedule is full. Their lifestyle depends on consistency. Person B earns less, but their costs are deliberately lower. They leave room in time, money, and energy. From the outside, person A looks successful. Person B looks modest. But when something breaks, a job loss, a health issue, a market shift, the outcomes diverge dramatically. Person A panics. Person B adjusts. Not because person B is smarter, but because they have slack. This is the core insight ancient Chinese thinkers understood intuitively. Wealth isn't created by maximizing output. It's created by preserving resilience. Modern systems quietly punish slack. Idle money is unproductive. Idle time is wasted. And used capacity is framed as inefficiency. But from a systems perspective, slack is not waste. Slack is what prevents collapse. Here's where this becomes deeply personal. When your life is built without slack, your nervous system knows it, even if you don't consciously think about it. You become anxious in subtle ways. You avoid risks that could improve your long-term position. You tolerate bad conditions because the downside feels too dangerous. You cling to stability even when it's slowly eroding you. Your decisions stop being strategic. They become defensive. This is why so many people earning good money feel constantly on edge. It's not because they're ungrateful. It's because their lives are running at 95% capacity. There's no room for error. Now contrast that with the ancient Chinese rule. Always leave slack. In farming, this meant leaving land fallow. In governance, it meant lower taxes during hard years. In personal life, it meant restraint, not exhaustion. The goal was continuity, not maximization. Survive bad years. Endure shocks. Remain adaptable. Modern financial culture teaches the opposite. Optimize everything. Stretch every pound. Extract maximum value. And then it wonders why burnout, anxiety, and financial fragility are everywhere. Let's slow this down with a simple example. Imagine your income increases by 15,000 pounds. After tax, maybe 8,000 pound lands. Modern thinking says, upgrade your life. Improve your standard of living. Match your new level. Ancient thinking says, preserve slack. That 8,000 pounds doesn't need a job. It needs to exist. Because money without obligation is power. Not flashy power, quiet power. The power to wait. The power to walk away. The power to say no. This is where modern wealth conversations often miss the point. They focus on accumulation. Ancient systems focused on endurance. And endurance is what actually builds wealth over time. Here's something most people don't realize. The biggest financial disasters rarely come from one massive mistake. They come from small shocks hitting systems with no slack. A minor illness becomes a crisis. A temporary job loss becomes a spiral. A market dip becomes panic. Not because the event was extreme, but because there was no room to absorb it. This is why the Chinese rule matters so much today. In a world of volatility, optimization is dangerous. Slack is safety. Now let's address the uncomfortable part. Modern life actively discourages slack. Housing markets punish underconsumption. Work culture rewards overcommitment. Consumer culture equates restraint with failure. So if you feel pressure to stretch, you're not imagining it. You're responding rationally to incentives. But incentives aren't destiny. The ancient Chinese understood something modern systems forget. You don't win by running faster forever. You win by lasting. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Wealth is not how much you extract from a system. Wealth is how long you can remain independent within it. That independence comes from slack. Slack in money. Slack in time. Slack in obligations. And once you start valuing slack, your entire relationship with money shifts. You stop chasing the next upgrade. You stop equating stress with progress. You stop believing that more pressure means more success. Instead, you start asking different questions. How fragile is my life? How many things have to go right for me to feel okay? How quickly would one disruption cascade? These are not pessimistic questions. They're intelligent ones. Ancient Chinese philosophy wasn't obsessed with growth curves. It was obsessed with balance. Too much tension snaps. Too much rigidity breaks. Too much extraction invites collapse. Modern capitalism excels at extraction. It struggles with restraint. So when people ask why it feels harder than ever to build lasting wealth, the answer isn't mysterious. We've built systems that treat slack as failure. And then we wonder why everything feels brittle. Here's what happens when you quietly apply the Chinese rule to your own life. Not dramatically, not performatively, quietly. You stop converting every income increase into obligation. You leave money unassigned. You leave time unscheduled. At first, this feels wrong, almost irresponsible, because you've been trained to optimize. But over time, something shifts. Your stress levels drop. Your decisions improve. Your patience increases. You begin operating from choice instead of fear. And that compounds. Over 5 or 10 years, People who preserve slack tend to experience fewer catastrophic setbacks. They recover faster. They pivot more easily. They outlast volatility. Not because they're luckier, because they're harder to break. This is the part that rarely gets talked about. Wealth is not built in moments of intensity. It's built in long stretches of stability. And stability requires slack. So if you've ever felt like you're working harder, but getting nowhere, like your income keeps rising, but your peace doesn't, like one mistake would undo years of effort, there's nothing wrong with you. You're living inside a system that forgot one of humanity's oldest rules. Never run at full capacity. Leave slack. That rule built empires. It preserved dynasties. It kept societies alive through famine, war, and uncertainty. And quietly, without hype or drama, it still builds wealth today. Not the loud kind. Not the visible kind. The kind that lasts. The real question isn't how much more you can earn. It's how much pressure your life can withstand before it breaks. And once you start seeing money through that lens, everything changes. If this perspective helped you articulate something you felt but never quite named, take a moment to sit with it. And if you want to keep exploring ideas like this, calmly, historically, without noise, consider subscribing. Not to chase more, but to last longer.